Welcome back to In Doug's Garden by Davey Tree, and as always, I appreciate you spending a little bit of time away from your garden to come see mine. Before we even get started, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. Now, as you can see, the deer did not get every hydrangea in the garden. This is going to be blooming in about a week fully. I've got one behind me that's blooming. Oh, I've struggled so much with the deer. We've talked about it at length, where when I was gone, they were breaking through the fence and coming in here. But the garden has come back. It is resilient. I have one tomato plant. I don't think it's going to make it. Now today we're going down to see a garden in South Park run by master gardeners. I'm answering a question about comb flowers and who is eating it. And then also, as always, there's a plant that you should grow. So right off the bat, let's head down to South Park and see a garden that I actually helped get started. So Joan, let's start with you. Tell me about how Master Gardeners got involved with this garden.
Okay, with the pandemic, a whole lot of things took a different complexion. One of the ideas that came out of that is we need to make our garden a destination in South Park. Through the pandemic, it was really difficult to maintain where we were. So
you changed locations, right?
We did change locations, but not immediately. At first, we were going to try to reconfigure down there and put a lot of thought and site analysis into that. And then the county, someone from the county approached and said, would you be interested in another location? And as it turns out, it was probably the best thing that could have happened. They have now repurposed that area for their maintenance department, and here we are. So
Marilyn, tell me about some of the plants that are planted here.
Most of the plants that are in here in this section is called the Moon Garden. Most of them are native shrubs or native perennials. We have added some annuals just to give a little bit of pop of color here and there. But we have catamint, nepeta there. We have allium. We've got winterberry. We've got gara.
So Joan, tell me a little bit about the transformation of what was here and what is here now.
Okay, what was here, it sort of reflected many years of attempts at different gardens, different plants were in here. I like to say we took it from weeds to wonderful. As you well know, a lot of beautiful daffodils went in, and that saw the garden through that first springtime. And after that, we started removing layers of plastic that had been in over the course of time.
Yes, I remember those thick layers of plastic.
Yes, and overgrown grasses, and then there was that Arundinodonax, which was probably pretty when it first started, but everything was kind of overgrown, so it had kind of the look of a field of woolly mammoths. And little by little, we put a team together to design, and we put a lot of thought before we put anything in. We thought a lot about the theme.
So who is getting to enjoy this garden?
Oh, I would say every group of children that come to practice and perform, their parents. We have a lot of theater patrons. There are a lot of people that have now put us on their track for walking in the park. So while we're here working, quite often we stop to chat with people.
Marilyn, what do you hope that visitors to the theater get out of some time visiting the garden?
Well, I would hope that they would get out of it that there are plants they can plant in their gardens, and they could survive where they would like them to be. The right plant in the right spot. So that's one of our hopes, and then the other hope that they get out of it is it's a place that they can come and relax and just enjoy the butterflies and the birds. The hummingbirds come by, the butterflies come by. A lot of pollinators visit our garden.
So tell me about the different gardens. This is the learning garden, or everything is considered the learning garden?
The entire site is considered a place to learn. This is specifically called the Moon Garden, and we have the newly developed section is a spectrum garden, and we really did take the whole spectrum of color in the form of plants. And then something else that's I think is kind of innovative, our gravel garden out at the back of the property, and I think that'll be an interesting thing for people to see. We all have gravel by our driveways.
So I'm the executive director of South Park Theater, and we rent the theater space. South Park Theater rents the space from the Allegheny County Parks Department. Along with the space comes this beautiful garden lands, which had gone into disarray over the past few years. I am certainly not a master gardener, and therefore it became overwrought with weeds, and that is when we started seeking some help. So for the first couple of years, we tried to get a committee together of our patrons at the theater to help beautify it and at least keep the weeds down. And then we kind of called in the big guns, and our wonderful friend Andy Amrine, he gave Doug a call, and with that we planted, I think it was 2,000 daffodils here in the garden. I think it was the
in
day
January.
Before, right, it was the day before New Year's, and it was absolutely frozen. But it was kind of our last shot to get those bulbs in the ground, and in doing that, we have this beautiful pop of color. The next year, the master gardeners step in, and this became their space. They have now transformed it into the beautiful demonstration gardens that they are today.
Tell me a little bit about how you're enjoying what your patrons are seeing when they come to the theater.
Oh man, so the gardens make the theater an experience, a trip to the theater an experience, not just a show. So they've got this beautiful environment to sit in before the shows. They've got something to learn about as they walk through the gardens. And they've just got a beautiful setting to enjoy a theatrical experience. A big part of theater is being able to talk about and process what they've just experienced when they see a show, and having a space for them to, a beautiful space for them to enjoy that conversation is a really important part. I mean, when you go and see a show downtown, you're often getting right back in your car and driving home. But here, you come early, you maybe have a picnic, which is happening more and more. You have a picnic before the show, you go in and you see the show. At intermission, you come out, you get a drink, you come out, you sit down in the gardens. You're just surrounded by appropriately beautiful nature in a park setting like this. And so it really adds to the theater experience.
I hope you can visit that South Park garden. It's really looking good, and we were talking there, as it matures, it's going to look better and better. And so we're back in this garden. I want to show off a couple little things. And we got two lilies here. This is a double lily that is naturally occurring from my old garden. So I've been here 4 years. Before that, I had 15 years at another garden, my first garden, and I had all these road lilies, but there was one that had this beautiful double form that I dug up and took with me. And this is one of the most wonderful things about gardening, are these memories that we create through our plants. And this one, it just reminds me of my kids when they were little. I've got one kid that's going to turn 40 this year, if you can believe that. So that shows you how old I am. I want to show you one more lily though, so follow me. Well, before we get to the lily, I want to show you this tree, and I've got one over here. These are pawpaw trees. I put some seeds in here 3 years ago. It took 2 years for them to sprout. They're supposed to be moved early in the spring before they leaf out. I did not get to it. These trees are getting so big, I don't know if I'm going to be able to move them, but as soon as they go dormant, they're just going to have to be moved out of the vegetable garden. So here's the lily, and it's exciting to me. Some breeders, the Zolocs, named this lily after me and surprised me with it. It's called Douglas Oster. That's my full name. My mother's maiden name is my first name, and my son's middle name. But this is, to me, just such a beautiful daylily. Now, do you know anybody that does something called tissue culture? Because I want to make more of this lily, and I want to donate all the proceeds to charity. So if you know any way to make more of these lilies, let me know. Just go to dougoster.com and send me an email. What do you think? You should grow this. Really? Well, here is a cool native plant that was sent to me by proven winners. This one is called Upscale Red Velvet, Monarda or Bee Balm. And if you want a plant that just really draws in the pollinators, and as an organic gardener, I'm trying to bring in the pollinators as much as I can. We help them, they will help us. And usually when people send me a plant, I'm at crunch time, and so I don't know where to put it. I threw this thing in an old container. This is a garden cart that someone gave me in the 80s. And it just has stayed here and done its thing. And if it'll grow here, imagine what it will do in good compost out in the garden. I love this plant.
I have a coneflower in my front garden, and I noticed this morning that somebody had been chomping on it. So I wondered if there's something I should plant around it, or if I should plant something else to keep whatever's eating my plants away.
Well, Gail, my guess for that coneflower is deer. It's not their favorite food, but every once in a while they will nibble on the flowers. I'm using this stuff called Bobex, and they do not pay me to tell you about it. This is just what I use. But it could be some other critter. I find that the Bobex works really well. They do have a Bobex deer and rabbit repellent, which I also use. So either use a physical barrier to keep the critters away from that coneflower, or spray it with a repellent like this Bobex. Now it's time for Talking Trees from the Davey Tree Expert Company. I'm joined again by Rob Kruljac. He's an assistant district manager for the North Pittsburgh office of the Davey Tree Expert Company and assistant district manager, easy. And we were looking around, and Rob, I'm seeing some decay or something down here, and I'm not sure about this tree. It's had some problems in the past. Had a big branch fall off and crush the old shed. Okay. And so what's the first step for you to see where this tree is?
Well, you know, this bark is sloughing off down here. It's hard to tell right now whether that may have been mechanical damage at one point, something just, you know, nicked it. The bark on the sides of the trees, you know, on the root flares, you know, if it's damaged, it won't seal that wound like a properly removed branch. Like there's one here, we get a picture. So a wound there will usually just ram horn in on itself as it's trying to heal. So decay can start in that sort of situation. So what I was going to start with is just sounding the tree with this mallet here, just to see if we can hear any hollow or just dead sounding thumps that would tell me that the wood's either decaying or nice and solid.
When you used that on my head, it was completely hollow.
It was hollow. It made it sound like a drum.
So now we'll know what it sounds like. Okay.
Yeah, you were the test subject.
Watch the ferry crossing sign. Am I hearing hollow in there?
No, it's on a pretty
good.
Nice and solid.
Good.
It's a simple test, but it really can tell us, you know, if decay is going on.
So after sounding it and taking a look at this, what are your thoughts?
You know, it sounded solid. So I'm not hearing that the whole trunk's hollow, and all the root flares gave back a nice, you know, reactive sound, not a dead thump. So I think that little piece will become a problem long term, but it could take quite a while for it.
And you're not put anything on this, you want it to naturally heal, right?
Right. You know, the wound sealer or paint or things like this, you know, foam, concrete to fill cavities, that's really not helping the tree at all.
Right.
Unfortunately, we have no way to actually stop decay. We want the tree to be in its happiest, healthiest environment so it can build up its own defenses to prevent that from advancing further.
And of course, we wouldn't want any mulch up on there.
No, exactly. I'll just add more moisture, and which is a friend of your decay.
Right. All right, we'll keep an eye on it, and so appreciate that. I'm glad this is solid.
Yeah.
This isn't.
Right.
Thanks again, and
No
thanks
problem.
for
Anytime.
coming, Easy. Assistant District Manager.
You settle down.
For more information about everything we talked about today, go to DougOster.com. Lots of great garden content there. And until next week, please keep planting, and we'll see you then.